What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Millennial Button Mashers podcast. Today, we're talking about Sony's State of Play reveals for the summer 2026 releases. As many of you know, E3 left a huge hole in the industry when it comes to video game releases, like those exciting cinematic trailers that we get to see. Summer Games Fest has came in, but also Xbox and Sony really leaned into these release events to hype new games and share what's coming. In this episode, we'll discuss the reveals that I'm most excited for or that caught my eye, and I'll also try to highlight everything new we know about these new games. With that, let's jump in. All right, so State of Play announcements. Before we jump in, please keep in mind that there may be some spoilers in here, some light spoilers, but for the purpose of this, it's just to report on what was shared in major takeaways. For a full breakdown, I'll actually link the State of Play on YouTube so you can see the live recording and include a video that GameSpot put out with the major trailers and gameplay reveals. With that, let's go ahead and talk about the first one that was shared. The thing that might be the most polarizing announcement of the entire showcase, God of War Laufey. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. This one is interesting because it takes place in the God of War universe, but it doesn't focus on either of the franchise's main stars, Kratos or Atreus. Instead, it tells the story of Kratos' late wife, Faye, and her journey to the afterlife after being laid to rest on the funeral pyre. From the gameplay we saw, it looks like Santa Monica Studio is sticking with the combat style introduced in the newer God of War games, and that's definitely not a bad thing. It remains one of the strongest action combat systems out there. What makes this project stand out is how deeply it ties into the larger mythology and the lore of the series. Interestingly enough, insider Nate the Hate was actually talking about this project back in March, so credit where credit's due. This guy continues to rack up accurate leaks. And for my personal reaction, the gameplay, it does look smooth, it looks polished, it does look fun. I just don't know that I care all that much about this specific story. That's probably going to sound blasphemous to some God of War fans, so take that with a grain of salt. And please know that I enjoyed the series, but I've never had the same attachment to it that a lot of players do, just candidly. No release date was announced, just a vague coming soon. You guys know the drill. So, we'll see. The next reveal was definitely not a surprise, and that didn't make it any less exciting, to be honest. Marvel's Wolverine finally got a substantial gameplay showcase, and wow, this thing looks brutal. The game is officially launching in 2026, and as a huge fan of Insomniac's Spider-Man games, this was probably one of my most anticipated titles of the entire showcase. If anyone can make a Wolverine game work, it's Insomniac. What's exciting is that nobody has really nailed a modern AAA Wolverine game before, and getting to step into Logan's boots and unleash absolute chaos feels long overdue. And speaking of chaos, this game is gory. Like, surprisingly gory. There are a few moments where I was thinking, Sony really uploaded this to YouTube? I wouldn't be shocked if some of those clips get demonetized somewhere along the line. And excuse me, I'm a little nasally here. The camera perspective appears to be a little bit closer to the newer God of War games than Spider-Man, but the visuals, environment detail, and level design all look incredible. There were even hints that we'll be able to ride Wolverine's motorcycle, which could be an awesome addition. My biggest question going in is whether combat would actually become repetitive. After all, Wolverine's solution to most problems is usually just stab it harder. But after seeing the extended gameplay, I'm definitely interested to see how Insomniac keeps things fresh, as they tend to do. We'll find out when it launches on September 15th, 2026. This one genuinely caught me off guard. Until Dawn 2 is officially happening, and Supermassive Games is bringing back the choice-driven horror formula that made the original such a huge hit. This time, instead of a snowy mountain lodge, the setting appears to be a tropical island. Different location, same nightmare fuel. A group of friends find themselves trapped and hunted by an unknown killer, and every decision could mean the difference between life and death for that specific character. What I've always loved about the Until Dawn series is how much your choices actually matter. One seemingly innocent decision can completely alter the story hours later. Save everyone? Accidentally get the entire cast killed? Both are very real possibilities, and they even called that out in the trailer. Ironically, I probably won't play this one myself. The real entertainment for me actually comes from watching streamers and content creators panic as they make their way through impossible decisions while the chat just screams at them. Seeing those live reactions is almost more fun than playing the game, in my opinion. Until Dawn 2 is currently targeting a 2027 release. The next one I'll keep short and sweet. Onimusha, Way of the Sword. Talked about this one in the past. Super exciting, looks very fun. Returned with another look ahead at its September 25th, 2026 launch. And this is Capcom's third major release of the year. So my expectations, given their other releases like Pragmata and Resident Evil, have my expectations pretty high for this one. The only disappointment I will say with this extra light that was shined on it is we still didn't get to see much actual gameplay. The presentation leaned heavily on cinematic footage rather than showing us what moment-to-moment combat would actually look like. But Capcom softened the blow in a huge way, and I actually give them major kudos for doing this. They announced that a demo is available right now, allowing players to experience roughly the first 30 minutes of the game for themselves. So honestly, that's a fantastic move. Instead of asking players to just trust the marketing, they're putting the controller in our hands and letting the game speak for itself. So can't wait to check that out and see what's actually coming down the pike. For this next one, all I can say is, holy shit. Have you ever watched a ridiculous movie car chase and thought, I wish I could do that? Because Stuntman Hollywood looks like it might be entirely built around that fantasy. The cinematic trailer was packed with what appeared to be homages to the iconic movie franchises like Fast and the Furious, Back to the Future, Death Race, and probably a dozen others that I wasn't able to completely get my eyes on that were hidden throughout. We didn't get an extended gameplay breakdown, but what we did see looked incredibly promising. And honestly, I'm surprised nobody has tackled this concept sooner. It's a fantastic idea. Instead of being another traditional racing game focused on lap times and realistic driving, this one seems to be about recreating the over-the-top Hollywood stunt studio sequences we've all grown up watching. If that's really what they're going for, it could end up feeling like a fresh take on the racing genre and one that likely appeals to more players that wouldn't normally touch racing games at all. This one was one of the biggest, wait, that actually looks pretty cool, moments of the entire showcase for me. Some quick call downs of other things that were talked about or announced during this, but I just didn't want to highlight for the purpose of today's podcast, were other things like Control Resonant, Ill, which looks like a terrifying horror game, Ace Combat 0, Ace Combat 8, Silent Hill Townfall, No Rest for the Wicked, which looks to be a new Souls-like game, Dynasty Warriors 3 Remaster, which I'm personally excited about because that was my favorite in the series growing up, Dune Awakening, Phantom Blade 0, The Lost Wild, Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis, Kamori, Bancho the Chef, Marvel Tokon, and then Rayman Legends Retold. And I'm sure I missed some, so if I did, please leave those in the comments so that the other listeners can also take a look at those as well. But that's this week's episode, folks. What are your thoughts on Sony's State of Play? Any thoughts on the new God of War spinoff game? What are some games that actually caught your eye? Leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you're new here, please consider subscribing because that's the best way to support this channel. And please share with a friend as we're trying to put out new content every single week. Until next time, everyone, stay safe and stay gaming.